my feet at the same time. Okay, let me find this real quick. Okay. So and I'm going to do this from the start again once I resize these. Plus we need a little bit of a mental vacation real quick. Come on. All right. So here we are in Photoshop, right? And I've got two smart objects. Sorry. Stocking cap Justin versus book Justin, right? They are both smart objects because they've got this little icon on them, right? Now, remember what I did last time is I took this one here and I used the move tool and I drug it to the second tab or the first tab, excuse me. Watched the image switch over, came down to the image area, and then press and held shift and then let go of the image. So do you guys now see that I have 1776 and 1775 as layers on top of each other? Okay. But remember, this is now an overhead transparency, book Justin, that's blocking out everything underneath of it. So this is like taking a full piece of paper and sort of putting it over that thing. It's blocking out anything below it. So maybe in like 1998 Photoshop technology, you would have taken the eraser tool, rasterized this image, and then just sort of erased the image on top of it, right? To sort of see stocking cap Justin. I'm going to watch this video back and just cringe in like 5 years. So what I'm going to do instead is this is where I add a layer mask. And really the only reason to add a layer mask is if you have more than one layer, right? Because we want to sort of do something to affect the other thing. So what I can do is I can keep both of these things smart objects, even though I know I can't do a brush tool, I can't do a erase tool, I cannot do anything to a smart object, but I can do something to the layer mask that sort of hides or reveals. So what I'm going to do on this is I'm going to go to layer mask, and there's two options. The first option is, hey, do you want to see everything that is this layer, or do you want to hide everything that is this layer, right? So I can either reveal this and sort of keep it as it is, or I can hide it from view. And actually, I have made the decision that stocking cap Justin is the image that I think is the best image. It's the image that I'm going to sort of like use to build everything around. And there's no right way or wrong way. I just sort of have an idea that everything that I'm going to do on top of my bottom layer, I want to hide. Okay. Because it'll just be easier in the long run. So now when I hide all, do you guys see book Justin has disappeared? And in this layer mask is the opposite of the adjustment layer mask. It's black, not white. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over and use my regular brush tool, not my erase, my regular brush tool. I'm going to make sure that I'm clicked on not the layer, but the layer mask. Do you guys see the difference between clicking on the layer versus the layer mask? I'm clicking to the left side, the layer, the right side, the mask. Now I can go over to my brush tool. So I'm on the brush, and then there's these two colors. There's black and white.
Brush? How did you get
so the brush is right here on the left side of Photoshop. It's in the like tool menu.
And what hardness or whatever are you using? Because that's what I had. I had to rub to try to get it to reveal what was under.
Okay, we'll get there in 1 second. So I've got my brush. And then I know that I always want to use the opposite color of my mask to reveal anything. And I want to use the same color as my mask to block anything. So if I've got a black mask, I'm going to use a white colored brush. Quick keyboard shortcut. If you hit D, it will set it to the default colors, which is white and black. And then if I use X on the keyboard, it will switch it between the front color and the back color so that you don't have to like go over and over and over. Okay, so here we are. Now I'm on white. And then this is where I can go into not only the size of my brush, but the hardness of my brush. And Jane, I think it's one of those things like, what I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure that my hardness is set between, let's say, 0 and 20, 0 and 30. It kind of doesn't really matter.
I had to go all the way up to 100 to get it to reveal.
Well, there might be some other, I'm going to show you one other thing that it might have been. I'm going to bring my brush size down a little bit. And then I also like to use the bracket keys. So when I'm in my brush, I use the right bracket to make it bigger. Do you guys see that? And the left bracket to make it smaller. Now, Jane, you might have had these other two settings checked. Do you see that there's opacity at 100 and flow is at 100? Have you guys ever spray painted anything? The flow is the amount of like, imagine this is like a spray paint gun. Flow is the amount of like paint that's coming out. And so watch this. If I do the flow, do you guys see like it sort of, that's flow at 35 versus, oh, Justin, what did you just do? Versus flow at 100, it's one click versus me going click, 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 click. The opacity will allow my brush to sort of work in a way that like, do you guys see I just did one like swoop with my opacity and I'm still there, right? And you see that the layer mask is gray, not white. Watch what happens when I bring my opacity up to 100. I go away immediately on one click.
And
so
controlling the opacity again and
those are up top in this opacity. There's like right next to the mode normal, there's opacity 100. Let me circle it. There's there's opacity and flow up there, and of course the zoom menu is blocking all of the, but they're up there. There's all sorts of other things. There's also like just to sort of let you know, like, so if you're using like a Wacom tablet, if you're using the pen, there's also like this thing that will like change the opacity based on how hard you press the pen. Mm-hmm. And also the flow can get changed by how hard you press the pen. We're going to talk about that when you take Digital 37.
I think mine was automatically on opacity 100 and flow 100.
It should be exactly. The default for those things are opacity 100. So now when I have not only opacity set, but I've got flow set and I like my brush, now I'm going to come in and I'm going to paint myself in. Now watch what happens when I accidentally go too far. I've now Marty McFly'd me at the end of Back to the Future when I haven't gotten my parents back together. So let's say I paint me in perfectly, but I accidentally paint my other self out. This is where I hit X, switch to black, maybe change my brush size. And then again, if I did the eraser, I'd have to like edit, undo, and like start all over. But because I can sort of use the like white and black, and then what I do as just a quick tip is I always turn the layer underneath off. And then I just make sure that like I paint out any other little thing that I see. Does that make sense? So like, just for instance, like if I had this in and I turned off the layer, I'd be like, oh, well, it's not affecting my image because it's the same, but just to keep things sort of clean and tidy and organized, I'm going to turn this off. And then I'll do this where I might as well just go ahead and paint this corner in. So it looks, you guys, and let me just say this at this point. This is some like, when I was an undergraduate, this was like one kid knew how to do this, made a whole work on it, and everybody thought he was like a genius. And like, you know, so like, this is some heavy, heavy stuff. The only reason we're doing it is not so that you can make more of you to the amazement of all your friends and enemies, but to sort of say like, this is how layer masks work. So in one hand, I want you to sort of do this as sort of perfectly as possible. But on the other hand, it's really to sort of be like, oh, stacking order works like this, layers work like this, layer masks work like this. Let's do something crazy, folks. Well, let me do this. Let me ask any questions at this point. I'm not going to ask them. You are, sorry.
I'm getting this backwards. So use the same color as the mask to hide and the opposite color to reveal.
Yeah. So like whatever color my mask is, you want to think about the opposite mask. So like, look, so Jane, I'm on the layer mask here. If I switch this color to black and I start to paint over Justin with the book, what am I going to do? Am I going to erase Justin with the book, or am I going to like reveal Justin with the book if I've got my black set?
You erase him.
Yes. And then if I go to the opposite color of that mask, I'll bring him back. Now, and Daisy, you'll like this one. If I use a really big fuzzy brush, watch this. I can actually get rid of the bottom of Justin. And I can make Ghost Justin for the holiday. So look, I could like even do something where I now make like Ghost Justin. So it's just a way to sort of say like, hey, you can get rid of certain things. And then again, I sort of make that brush smaller because I've got to like, you know, deal with like the two faces. And this is why I kind of said like, don't overlap, because if you overlap, then you've got to like go in with a very fine hard brush. I mean, here, if you just look how crappily and sloppily I painted that in, but because the backgrounds are the same, it matches. But I guess really the demo is just like, okay, I see what happens when I put one layer on top of the other. Do that. Okay, so Dave, did you have a question?
Did you say Dave? No, I don't.
Yeah, okay.
Oh, no.
I don't know where. Yeah, Jane, go ahead.
My biggest question is I got done with all that, and then how do I save it?
Okay.
You wanted us to save it as a PDF, and
PSD.
Saved
PSD.
it
PSD.
somehow back to Lightroom. Huh?
So you want to save it as a PSD, which is Photoshop document. PDF is a portable document file, which is like a whole nother can of worms.
it would have taken 14 minutes for it to upload on the share drive.
So don't,
Right.
right. So
I wanted PSD.
you wanted PSD, and we didn't necessarily, because just to say, this is November 6th, this is due. We don't have to upload it yet. I'm going to show you how to make a small version of it. Because remember, just like our panoramas, we didn't send me the full size panorama because that would have taken 6 years to sort of upload from our benevolent overlord Comcast. Same
So
thing
this is-
here. If you look at this, I bet those files were like, I mean, let's say you have a 50 megabyte file. If you put 3 images, so that is 50 times 3, you've now got a 150 megabyte file. So we're sort of making it bigger and bigger and bigger because Photoshop is having to store more and more data.
I also just did save and close, and it went back to Lightroom, so I was able to export it to the shared drive through Lightroom.
And what's cool is the way we've been working, because we didn't just randomly open it on our computer, we opened it through Lightroom. Lightroom knows that we've opened it and worked on it, and it will auto put it back in there.
Oh, okay.
Okay. I'm still recording. What are other questions that you guys have?
I think when I did make a mistake in painting the brush and I did switch to black, when I painted over the person, it did not bring the person back.
So then do the opposite. So like, and just as a weird default, just to sort of say this, like, let's say I'm in here and I'm painting and it's not doing what I want, just switch the color. And I cannot tell you the amount of times that I still will be like, aha, get ready to go. And I have the wrong color selected. And then I'm like, oh, duh. And so then I just switch the color on pure black and pure white. I want to show you guys something totally crazy now. Let's use that same photo filter as an example. So instead of the like double crown example, let's do something the same. So now let's go to photo filter. And do you guys see when I click create a new filter adjustment layer, it will go to the top of my filter. So like, as long as I'm sort of clicked on the top layer, and again, if it sort of made it somewhere else, I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to drag and reorder that layer. We did underwater. Hold on one second.
How do you get photo filter anyway?
Okay. Do you see, Donna, up here, there are add an adjustment layer. There's a whole new panel.
Oh.
And it has all of these weird hieroglyphics.
Are you on the right side? Where?
I'm on the right side, right above the layer palette. Do you guys see I've circled it in red? Does anybody see that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Here's another Photoshop tip. If I don't know what any of these things mean, all I'm going to do is have my mouse hover over this for like a second. And then it's going to tell me what it does. So it's going to say brightness and contrast, levels, curves, exposure, photo filter. So I can get an adjustment layer there. I can also go down to, and I call it the black and white cookie icon. So down here, there's also a list of layer adjustments such as solid color, brightness and contrast, level, curves. Do you guys see that list in the bottom right-hand corner now? You guys, I'm going to tell you, this is why I hate teaching Photoshop, because there are 17 ways to do the same thing. I just clicked on this little icon that looks like the half black and white cookie at the bottom of the layer palette. If you guys are all looking to get face tattoos, like right underneath your eye, I would get like the little black and white cookie, the add new layer, and then like the trash can. Those would be really good. Or maybe like get them tattooed on your knuckles. That would be a good hand tattoo to make sure that you have to be a photographer, because no one's hiring you at the bank with Photoshop symbol hand tattoos. So that's down there. Oh my gosh, I was recording that. Great. I'm now going to be really excited about that. Okay. So we've got our underwater photo filter, right? And it's really, really working. So what's cool about this is now, let's say I want to I don't want to pull this all back into Lightroom to print it or to export it or to save it. I can actually do all of these different Photoshop filters as layers on top. And so tomorrow I can decide I don't like it and I can just turn it off. Let's say I want to do like a super wacky one like invert. So I want to make it look like a negative for whatever reason. I can do that, but I'm not sort of 100% married to it forever because I can just turn it off if I want to. And I want to show you one last thing before I stop on this is that this is where layer order becomes really important, because if I start to now take invert and drag it between my two image layers, do you guys see what happens there? So stacking order is super, super important, even to the point where like if I change the filter layer, like if I change it from the underwater filter to the invert filter, do you guys see how much that changes? So back in the day, we all used to think we were smart and we'd make all these layers and then we'd start being like, what does this one do? And learning how to do Photoshop, Justin, would make 75 layers. It would take 10 minutes to save like a 500 kilobyte image on a zip drive. All right, anybody who's remembers zip drive technology. But then I would get confused about whatever anything was. And then so the way I sort of like to explain it is it's like overhead transparency. So I sort of make sure that everything's the way I want it. And then if I wake up tomorrow and say doing the invert was a really bad idea, Justin, I just turn it off. All right, I'm going to stop that recording for now. We can do another recording session later.